Welcome to another video, guys. Just got back from the gym from a push day session. Been at work all day. It's about 7:05. Just done an hour's cardio and I am absolutely shattered. But needs must, we need to crack on and cook 2 days worth of meals. So I'm going to be cooking chicken and potato. Let's get to it. So the first thing I do when I'm prepping is ensure I have the tubs. So as you can see here, I'm prepping for 2 days. So I've got 4 tubs for the first day, 4 tubs for the second day. What I like to do is differentiate slightly. So I know my main meals, which I have more protein, will be the green one and the circle one, as that's what I do pretty much every day. And here, I've got my tubs ready. My lids ready, yeah? So I've got the 4 for the first day, 4 for the second day, and I've got the lids over here ready, right? So first, we'll crack on and make sure that we've got enough food. Over the course of the days, over the 2 days, I'm going to be having 6 lots of 150 grams of chicken, yeah? And then for my main meal, I usually have 200 grams and another 200 grams, but because it's going to be my 3rd day tomorrow, that's going to happen slightly different. So I'm going to have one meal of, I'm going to put 340 grams of steak in there to get my fats in, yeah? Because I am doing a low fat diet at the minute, which works for me. And so every 3rd day, I am increasing my fats by having steak or some other form of meat that is higher in fat than chicken, which is very lean. But my main meal, I have more protein, which will be 200 grams. So I'll have in total 6 lots of 150, which is 900 grams of chicken, yeah? And then I'll have 1 lot of 200, so in total, that's 1.1 kilograms of chicken I'm going to need to cook and put in those tubs. For today, I am not going to be cooking my steak. I will cook that fresh tomorrow for my meal, as it's nicer. Sometimes I do cook it in advance, but for this time, for tomorrow, I am going to cook it fresh. As you can see, I've got plenty of potatoes. I buy 7.5 kilograms of potato from Morrison's. I'm only having 400 grams of potatoes a day at the minute, which is quite low. As I'm coming into the final weeks of my holiday prep, I've cut my carbs down from 200 grams a day to 100 grams, 200 grams per meal to 100 grams per chicken and potato meal. So every day I'm going to be having 400 grams of potatoes in total. So today I'll be cooking 800 grams. So last but not least, for the veg, here I have 150 grams. 150 grams actually lasts me 4 days. So 1 packet I do spread over 4 days, which in a lot. But for me, I feel like it's enough. I feel like I'm getting my vitamins. You know, I feel really healthy. I really don't get sick very often. Asparagus is delicious. So I do spread 1 packet over 4 days. Now, what I do with my asparagus, I separate it into, so for my second meal I'll have asparagus, and my final meal I'll have asparagus, and so on and so forth, yeah? What I do is, well, what I will be doing, because I am making the steak separately tomorrow for this meal, I will be cooking the potatoes and asparagus for it in advance. I might as well cook it in batch, it's easier, and really it doesn't taste much different. It's just a steak really that I like to cook nice, warm and fresh. Put your pan on the scales, yeah, so it doesn't count. Switch it on, let it go to naught. There we have it. So we're at 815. Now that's fine unless you're competing and you're being very strict. A bit of potato will be left in the pan anyway, a little bit of residue. So 815 is fine. Right, let's move on to cutting them up. So we've got 815 grams of potatoes here. Get your pan ready to chuck them in. Right. So I bet you're thinking that you're watching a fitness video. You're actually watching MasterChef. Now I'm going to show you how it gets down. So, we're done. These are sort of the size I cut them. Bit varied. This is what works for me. I feel like they cook quickly this size. Someone's probably going to say you're cutting them totally wrong. However, it's not a cooking show, it's a fitness show. Whatever. Don't critique my cutting. Works, yeah? So I'm going to throw these all in here, basically, yeah? Right, so there we have it. I bet you're thinking, Cal, you haven't even peeled the potatoes. Well, that was purposeful, yeah? I don't like to peel them. They've got good nutrients in the skin, a bit of sodium. If you're competing, I don't know if you're doing water or sodium manipulation, whatever, but it's good to keep the skin on. They've got vitamins in them. It mashes for me perfectly fine. I mean, maybe if you're very weak or something and you struggle, you're not going to break for that thin skin. But it's fine, it's quick and it's easy. Now, at this stage, you can either choose to add salt or not, yeah? I'm not against sodium. I think it's an essential nutrient. However, I like to add my salt on afterwards. So when I prepared the food, I like to put a bit of garlic salt. As you would have seen in my previous video, Day in the Life of Bodybuilder, I put on my garlic salt when I'm about to eat my food. So what I like to do is boil the kettle and then I'll fill these up and put them on for 35 minutes, yeah? So, next I'm going to cook the chicken, yeah? What's important with this is how you cut it and how I sort of stack it, yeah? I'm going to show you a little trick. However, I'm not going to film cutting it, etc. because with raw chicken, etc., touching my phone. So I'm going to cut it and then I'll show you what it's like cut and how I've stacked it so it cooks all the way through and sort of how I prepare it, yeah? Just make sure that you've got a tray big enough to fit in your oven and to fit all the chicken on. I just like to use one tray, it works for me, as you do. Let's get cutting. So let's look how I prep the chicken. What I did is when I'm weighing, I use a lid of another tub just to not get juices on there. I cut it as close to 150 for these 6 at the top as I could. I'd always overestimate, so for like 152 grams, I prefer not to go under on my protein, so it would be 150, 151, 152, whatever, as close to 150 as I can. But like I said, I prefer to go over as opposed to going under. What I like to do is, sometimes if I had 200 grams, but I'm having steak tomorrow, I would have moved this further along and stacked it a little bit higher, just to create another room for another 200 grams of chicken. But I like to differentiate it slightly by making that one longer, as they're not too dissimilar from the 150 grams, it's only 50 grams more. So as you can see, what I like to do, raw chicken, what I like to do is I cut them into small chunks so that when they're cooking, they're able to cook all the way through, and it's easier to stack on your tray. Honestly, if you cut them like this while you're cooking them in the oven, they'll cook a lot better. They'll cook through because of the gaps in them. I think the air's able to get in between and then they sort of bond together, and it's just far easier. What you need to do with this is you need to preheat your oven to 180 degrees, and I cook these for about 35 minutes. So the fan oven's on at the moment, preheating. So about seasoning, season with whatever you want, yeah? Depends on what your diet is, your macros, your calories, how your body reacts to sodium or whatever. So I've been doing my holiday cut for, I think I'm 3.5 weeks in, so I've got a week and a half left. Initially I was just using garlic salt, but as the closer I'm getting to my holiday, as I will be having a few cheat meals, as I'm not going to be unsociable, I'm going to enjoy my holiday. What I've started to incorporate is a few more different spices, a few different sauces. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to be putting on today. Ignore the clock behind me, it's run out of batteries. So what I've been putting on, well, what I put on yesterday. So it's the first day where I'm incorporating more sauces, etc. So that when I do eat my meals, etc., my body don't go into shock and I pile the weight on. So today I've got some Nando's mild peri peri sauce. So what I'll do is just put a little bit on, but I'll show you that, and that'll make my chicken taste delicious. You can see you don't need loads of it because it absorbs. It's nice. You don't want to throw your calories too much. It's quite high in sugar, but it's delicious and will make your chicken much nicer. The potatoes are starting to boil now. Potatoes are boiling. Put them in the same time as the chicken and I'll let them both cook for 35 minutes. So I'll cook my asparagus last. You know how it goes. Put a tiny bit of salt on. Boil it in water for a few minutes. It's cooked. If you don't know how to cook asparagus, just Google it. I'm not here to do cooking tutorial. I'm just showing you how you prep the food. I'll show you. I'll just throw it on my food when it's finished, and you shall see. Some of you may be thinking, why mashed potato? Why not wedges? So I've tried wedges. I've tried chips before. I feel like, well, I like my wedges quite crispy, so they ended up being a bit burnt. It's quite a faff cooking them. I just feel like mash, when you consume it and when it's in your stomach, it fills you out a lot more. It absorbs the water, so when you're eating it, you feel like you're eating more. Therefore you feel more satisfied. I find the mash easier to cook. Just boil it in a pan, mash it up, throw it on. If you're competing and sort of weighing it out with putting the tub on, weighing it out separately, it's a lot easier with mash as opposed to wedges. Well, I feel so, and it feel like that anyway. Mash mixes well with, you know, whatever you season your chicken with, or if you put salt on afterwards, it's just nice. But you could mix it up, see what you prefer. That's just a recommendation from me, just to boil the potatoes and mash them up. Simple and easy. Potatoes are being drained and then I've mashed them up, so they're going to be ready to put in the tubs. The chicken is ready as well, so I'm going to serve up the chicken first, then just put the mash up on top. I sort of guessed this instead of weighing it just by the portion size. So if you was competing or you wanted to be bang on, what I'd do is put one of these tubs on the scales, put it in, and just make sure that you're evenly distributing it throughout. As you can see, chicken is in, 200 grams, leaving that tub for the steak tomorrow. They're in there, a little bit of Nando's sauce on top of those, yeah. Cooked through nicely. Brilliant. The potatoes in, as you can see, 100 grams is hardly anything. But it does the job, and my calories are still around about 2,556 or something, yep. So, that's pretty much it. A bit of asparagus on there. You can season again if you'd like. Like I say, you could put some more salt on, do whatever you want, whatever will keep you consistent with your diet. So this will do me for 2 days, yeah. Tomorrow I'm gonna cook my steak, 300 and what did I say, 45 grams, around that. I'm gonna cook that steak and have it with that. Chicken's there. I'll let it cool down slightly as it gets a bit too moist and your food can end up runny. These sort of meals I find are good cold as well. Depends what you prefer, but when you're trying to stick to a diet, I eat these around about between 2 and 3 hours a day. And then if you've watched my previous video on a day in life of the bodybuilder again, I cook my porridge examples on there. So if you put those two together, you can sort of see what I eat at the minute on a day-to-day basis. So my calories are reduced at the minute, sort of significantly, like I say, 2,554 or something like that, maybe a little bit more now, which is quite low for myself, but needs must, and it's only temporarily, and I'm getting all my vitamins. So yeah, so this is how to food prep. I've shown you some tips with the chicken. I've shown you the easiest way to make your potatoes, and I've shown you really the easiest way of sorting it out. Just make sure you get good Tupperwares that aren't going to open, and by doing this, you've prepared your meals in advance. It doesn't take too long. You don't have the stress of having to cook. You can carry these around with you in a bag and you're sorted, yeah? So if you really want to achieve your goals with a diet, food prep is the way forward. Weighing things out, counting your macros and tracking those calories. Hope you've enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe. If you've got any questions, let me know. Enjoy your food.